This is The Falling Man, a photograph taken by AP journalist Richard Drew on September 11, 2001. Why is this man falling? One explanation is that he is a victim of an Al-Qaeda terrorist attack. But that begs the same question. Why? Then US President George W. Bush said that man is falling because some people hate American freedoms. That is correct, just not in the way he intended. We may speculate how he's correct, but note that we can only reach a superficial truth, because the real substance and absolute truth is whatever went on in that man's head at that time. Whatever it was, he most likely wasn't thinking that he is falling right into the lap of Washington's most violent politicians. The post-9/11 US
war on terrorism,
according to a Brown University study, resulted in 4.5 million deaths. For the aggressor, both its ethical and human cost is reflected in the number of US servicemen dying by suicide this century, 4 times that of combat casualties. Costing $8 trillion, the war collapsed the institutions of target nations and left them vulnerable to violent, puritanical actors. The US, the world's largest weapons dealer and oil producer, is aided in its doctrinal regime changes by its 750 foreign military bases. The ally hosting the most number of such bases includes in its history the US dropping an atomic bomb on its civilian population and, after observing the generational devastation, doing it again 3 days later. Japan has been a close US ally ever since. That all of West Asia is not a Japanese story ruffles the influential US neoconservative or neocon lobby, which charted the war on terror 5 years before the Twin Tower attacks in the 1996 Operation Clean Break Report, a recommendation for US-Israel to remodel West Asia. Neoconservatism is essentially a geo-supremacist stance aimed at increased defense spending. It works off the idea that US military intelligence must exist in hyperactivation and defines as American interest the use of force to dismantle any principle, system, or individual that deviates from a hegemonic vision that sees American supremacy as natural law. The existence of the disobedient, whether democratic or despotic, is in the neoconservative interest. A steady supply of enemies enable agitating for more military spending, money which can return to assist their politics and enrich their lives, once in the coffers of favor-trading defense corporations. They excel at creating a continuum of security risks in strategic regions of the world to funnel insecure states into the clienthood of these corporations. Over 50 members of Congress, some part of defense committees, and their families own stock in these companies. Defense firms are some of the biggest political donors and backers of think tanks aimed at influencing policy. There's a clean path from taxpayer to government to defense firm and back to establishment politics that the neoconservatives are trained to shepherd billions of dollars through. Some variant of neoconservatism has dominated US foreign policy since before popular usage of the word. Throughout the 80-year-old history of the post-war, rules-based order, the US has, for natural resources or ideological supremacy, waged cowboy wars, coups, and occupations on territories ranging from Chile to Ukraine to the Philippines. America has consistently sought refuge from such indicting facts with a moral posturing inverse to its track record. Its interventions have required tending to citizen psychology on an equal magnitude. The cycle of conflict, regime change, military expansion and occupation through successive post-war governments has left a trail of state propaganda so vast that presidential candidates clamor to swear greater fealty to it. Political adversaries are routinely accused of violating country and flag if they are interpreted as dovish, compelling them to save their campaigns by projecting an equal jingoism. A permanent fixture of US elections is the security guy, who seeks to monger about their opponent's weakness on the matter by predicting the doom of empire, with the result that a US election is necessarily a patriot war between two security guys. This political culture, exemplified by the neoconservatives, tries to maintain a permanent alienation between US citizens and the catastrophic effects of their foreign policy. Prior to 9/11, America already had a history of deadly and expansionist forays across West Asia. In addition, it had absorbed regional actors into its structural print and rooted out the outliers, ensuring pliancy and obscuring anti-American narratives. Channeling American exceptionalism and then a brute avoidance of culpability proved disastrous. Institutionally erasing the discourse merely allowed it to be revived and repackaged in the hands of terrorists. Neoconservative leader and then President George W. Bush, giving reasons for the 9/11 attacks, did not speculate about any of that, instead deploying audacious propaganda effective to this day.
Why do they hate us? They hate what they see right here in this chamber, a democratically elected government. Their leaders are self-appointed. They hate our freedoms.
They hate our freedoms. America, according to Bush, reflected everything that conservative foreign societies and their extremists hate, to where they, at risk of an annihilating US response, will attack for that reason alone. This propaganda, deployed at the top level, assumed many forms once it percolated to the ground. As recently as during the Israeli and US attacks on Iran, that is, 22 years later, mutated variants of Bush's propaganda find space in popular US programming. Iranian public realities are contrasted with lionized American ideals: the freedom to not wear a headscarf, the freedom to wear skirts, the
freedom of speech, freedom to vote and assemble and disagree with each other,
pursuit of individual liberties,
our freedom of religion.
Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
The narrative is that Muslim hardliners with nuclear ambitions have evil designs on the US because they cannot bear to witness the unfolding of an advanced society.
If I step foot wearing this outfit into Iran,
Bush's messaging has endured for decades, harnessed to provide
Bomb, 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 bomb.
motivations to attack Iran.
Bomb, 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 Iran.
The set of shifting reasons offered for the attack include the idea that Iran naturally hates everything the US stands for. It stresses the Islamic government's internal, apparently ideologically intolerable, repressions and unpopularity. To use neoconservative language,
if you take out Saddam,
to take out a government over alleged unpopularity is insincere when coming from the US, where roughly 70 million people have voted for the defeated candidate in each of the last 3 elections.
On whether Democrats or Republicans should be in charge. Donald Trump is the president-elect, losing the popular vote by more than 2 million people.
As seen with Iran, the allegation of hating American freedom serves aggression as well, providing not just an explanation for the US suffering aggression, but also a reason to carry it out without provocation.
Would you consider bombing the country again?
Sure, without question, absolutely.
And have you had any conversations?
Turned out to be unbelievable.
But there is a workaround. Bush's messaging needs one single adjustment to become truthful: to replace the domestic freedoms he referred to with the geopolitical freedoms the US enjoys in reality would make his statement legitimate. Within international law mandated by the UN Charter, of which the US has positioned itself as the muscle and guarantor, American and Israeli military forays, brief, extended, or permanent, are in innumerable instances illegal. The true and blowback-causing American freedoms are technically criminal freedoms. The freedom to hang presidents rests with the US alone. The freedom to violently abolish foreign political cultures, often against the will of its own allies and to visible commercial benefit, is the deadly exceptionalism the US practices in reality. Regional populations overwhelmingly hate these freedoms. If mass casualties and engineered coups are exempted from institutional repercussions, those facts will not perish, but instead find accommodation in sectarian actors. Some of these actors have sprung directly from American prisons in Iraq, where Bush's intervention caused 1 million deaths.
You killed a million people in Iraq.
Mr. Bush led the United States with blatant falsehoods into a war against Iraq, which killed 1 million people.
1 million Iraqis are dead because you lied! My friends are dead because you lied! You need to apologize! Apologize!
The root of current US-Iran tensions lies in Operation Ajax, the 1953 CIA overthrow of Iran's democratically elected President Mohammad Mossadegh, followed by the installation of a monarchical police state. Done at the behest of BP, then known as the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, it was aimed at the removal of Mossadegh's oil reforms. In other words, tensions began with, as always and without exception, the American freedom to tamper with nations. These freedoms should now curtail. The neoconservative doctrine has proved disastrous. However, the recent 30,000-pound bombing of a nuclear facility proves that it is still influential. If American adventurism has to be relegated to a berserker past, the neoconservative lobby needs an immediate domestic counterweight. But not just the lobby, which is merely a supercharged form of a wider bipartisan military-industrial complex. In 1961, during his last televised speech as US President, Dwight D. Eisenhower issued a public warning about this complex.
We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. This conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry, the total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
He did not mention a section of any party because the complex consists of both parties and their attached firms, an election-proof system which wages war and unrest, reconfigures unfamiliar societies, and, because wealth creation is at the heart of the matter, keeps a deadly eye on what other countries have under the ground.
We're telling Ukraine they have very valuable rare earth. We want to guarantee.
Nothing illustrates Eisenhower's warning about exactly how dangerous and influential that system is than the fact that he embodied it. The plan to erase Mossadegh was formulated and executed by the Eisenhower administration. For centuries, domestic US propaganda has invoked the idea that some natural and geopolitical rights are unique to Americans. From manifest destiny to leader of the free world, supremacist notions have pervaded US society, to where a political class genuinely claims that foreign societies should celebrate a globally invasive commercial watchdog. They see this as consistent with American rights, which are special, absolute, and exceptional.
America is the exceptional nation.
I stand for American exceptionalism.
I believe in American exceptionalism with every fiber of my being.
For the military-industrial complex, supremacy is tied to the health of the nation, as demonstrated by an article written by Eric Prince, founder of private military company Blackwater, where he laments, how did America go from winning the Cold War and becoming the sole global superpower in the 90s to the state of disarray that we find ourselves in now? The true picture of disarray is reflected in the fact that Prince is actually a passionate opponent of neoconservatism. His article was aimed at lambasting them for being too soft and not letting US private security hounds loose all over the world. These supremacist leanings might linger longer, but their worst consequences can be mitigated now. The US is positioned closer than ever for at least a soft reorientation. The trope of the security guy in presidential politics has never been less popular. Large sections of the voting public are contrasting the spending on structural issues at home with the mammoth spending on foreign conflicts. This has turned the idea of winding down the interventionist mindset into an effective campaign promise.
I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly. It will take me no longer than one day.
As a candidate, you said you would have this war settled in 24 hours.
Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic.
The alienation between the US public and its foreign policy is rapidly shrinking. The war in Ukraine and the genocide in Gaza, especially its tax-borne material cost, has brought about a sharper opposition to war. The time is ripe for breakaway Democrats to give political expression to this change and begin to form a true electoral-minded counterweight to the neocons, so that civilian populations all over the world are delivered from one more Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, one more Bin Laden, one more al-Baghdadi, or one more.
We came.
The United States is regarded as the greatest threat to world peace.
We saw.
By an overwhelming margin.
He died.
No other countries even close.
Traditional American politician.